I'm an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
We don't run from the fight, or we don't sit and wait for somebody else to do it. Our job is to go into it and protect and defend.
I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat.
In 2003, the U.S. Army adopted a new code of warrior ethos and began to instill the soldier's creed into all training programs to teach the duties, values, and ethos of being a U.S. Army soldier.
Destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I wouldn't say that it's because I'm really brave. It's just because you want to protect your friends.
Every so often, during a soldier's call to duty, they are challenged by the creed and the values that every Army soldier lives by.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
In 2004, during the war in Iraq, a small number of soldiers, primarily truck drivers, were challenged to cross an invisible line to defend the wall and the creed that they hold true. On April 4, 2004, the radical young cleric Muqtada al-Sadr declared a jihad against coalition forces in Iraq. Al-Sadr just wanted to flex his muscles enough to make him a player in the big political picture. He operated out of An-Najaf, and his Mahdi militia surprised the coalition after it drove off the Ukrainians from their compound at Al-Qut. He needed control of the suburb of Baghdad, named after his father, Sadr City, to complete his plan. But the 1st Cavalry Division stood in his way. He knew his militia was no match for Abrams tanks, so his military planners instead went after the soft Achilles heel of the tanks, their dependency on trucks for fuel and ammunition. On Thursday night, April 8th, the militia dropped 8 bridges and overpasses, thus severing the main supply route south of Baghdad.
The enemy controlled the roads. I remember feeling very angered by this, because they should have never controlled anything.
The next day, Good Friday, and the anniversary of the fall of Baghdad, the militia ambushed any convoy trying to get in or out of Baghdad International Airport.
They played it smart that weekend. They had dropped bridges all around BIAP, going in and going out.
That Easter weekend, hundreds of trucks waited behind the concrete wall of the southwest corner of BIAP.
They did some good things for their forces that weekend.
On Easter Sunday morning, a fuel convoy of the 607th POL was ambushed just after it left BIAP, and an Apache helicopter was shot down coming to its rescue. Listening to the pleading of the truck drivers as their ammunition slowly ran out, the crew of the Humvee gun truck Zebra attempted to drive to their rescue, but was stopped at the gate.
And I remember talking to one of the guards, and I said, we need out this gate. We're going to go help the people out there in that convoy. They said, well, we've got QRF going out there. There's already somebody heading out that way. And they turned us back and told us to go back to our area. And so as we're going back, I remember we get just about back to the area where we make the turn to the right. And that's the point whenever I hear the explosion. And shortly after the explosion, you hear the small arms fire, and I'm like, oh God, they're attacking the camp. And I told my driver, I said, let's get up on that berm. And as we went to go up on the berm, there was a guy in the tower, and I remember he yelled down, wait a minute, wait a minute. And I said, we're ready to go. We'll get up on the berm. And about that time, small arms fire hit that tower. And that's when I told my driver to drive up. And as we drove up, that's whenever I could see the people dressed in black. And they were moving in 3- and 5-man teams, and they were moving with a purpose. And they had rifles, they had RPGs, there were people out there giving distinct commands. And there was a canal just in front of us, like 50 meters in front of us. I looked down to my right-hand side, and there were insurgents that had already made it across the canal. That's when it all exploded. And it was almost like people had to shoot down like this. It was like, God, how did they get that close? The RPGs start coming in, just one right after the other, just ka-rump, ka-rump, ka-rump. And every now and then one will go up over your head. You can hear the small arms fire, the barrage of small arms fire sounds like bees flying by your head. and you could just hear the zing, 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 zing.
It was about noon when it started off. I was, myself and Specialist Dumont at the time, who was now a warrant officer, we were inside the chow hall, eating chow Easter Sunday, lunch. We had gotten done eating. We were walking towards the door, and a sergeant first class, I don't remember his name, opened the door and screamed into the chow hall, "Hey, we've got a firefight out here." And we took one step out of the door, and you could hear Lieutenant McCormick's Humvee, I believe it was, on top of the berm with a 50 cal, just lighting things up, and a lot of other gunfire as well.
I was in the MWR tent emailing a friend of mine from where I'd worked in my civilian job, had sent me a GameCube when I got there. So I was emailing him back, thanking him for the GameCube, and I'm sitting there and I got, "Dear so-and-so, thanks for the GameCube, getting mortared, gotta go."
My driver and my A driver and my guys on the ground, they had set up like a V formation on that hill, and they were watching each other's left and right flanks. They really had each other's backs. And I'm thinking, okay, we just got to hold it a little bit longer. There's going to be people come up here, I'm sure.
So I sent it real quick, ran out the door, and I saw the gun truck, and I saw Sergeant Butler in white standing at it as I'm running, and that was kind of off to my left. And off to my right, I see all of our tractor trailers, and I see people diving underneath, the tires and all the trailers. And about that time, as I'm running to the truck, the Zebra starts opening fire up on that dirt mound.
Specialist Dumont and myself ran as fast as we could to our gun truck, which was positioned to the back end of our convoy in the staging lanes. As we ran up to the gun truck, Lieutenant Marion, who was the specialist at the time, Specialist Marion, Specialist Horowski, Sergeant Fry were in the back of the truck, as well as Specialist Bowman, screaming, "Come on, hurry up, get your gear on."
And I look back and I'm yelling and saying, "Get up here. Where's everybody at?" And there's nobody. It's like people are mesmerized and they're watching.
I came out, I looked right, there were people starting to go under trailers. I looked left, I saw my gun truck. No, yes.
Part of that would be a command and control issue. There was a lot of people who stayed at their trucks. Some people ran the other direction. I think a lot of it was they didn't know what to do.
So myself, Sergeant Butler, Specialist White, got in our gun truck, headed up behind the Zebra because they were occupying that position. And at the same time as we were doing that, Sergeant Eby, Sergeant Lehman were getting in their gun truck, came over also with the Mark 19. So it was the Zebra up on the hill, and then the two other gun trucks kind of behind on either side.
Al jumped in the back of the truck. I looked back at Al as I was putting my vest on and said, "Hey, where do you want it?" And he said, "Put me 100 meters from that wall."
The battle rages on, and I don't know how long it had been. I'm wanting to say maybe 10 minutes. That's whenever I see two soldiers I recognized. I remember seeing Stewart and Butler. They were running. When people were running the other direction, these guys were running towards the wall.
Myself and Sergeant Butler opened fire on the left flank, and then the other guys basically straight ahead because there was a guard tower with some soldiers in it right to our right.
And that's whenever I hear the it was a 915.
We pulled up. Lieutenant McCormick was on the wall. He saw the Mark 19. Him and Dumont had seen each other, and he said, "Get that thing going."
And I look over my shoulder and he says, "Where are they at?" And I said, "They're everywhere. Just fire left to right. Anywhere out there, 250 meters out."
Dumont started firing the Mark 19 over the wall into positions on the outside of the perimeter.
Those rounds were dropping from the left to the right, doop, doop, doop. And everywhere them suckers were dropping, those guys were trying to get out of the way.
We stayed there for probably, I would say, 20 minutes. We emptied the Mark 19 completely dry. We were out of ammo.
We continued to take fire. We continued to return fire, and it just went on and on. It's like a tremendous wave is coming up on you, and you're in the ocean almost like, and you're trying to push this wave back, and we do it. At that point, there was a colonel, but he got up in the tower. He asked me to pull my vehicle down. and they were going to put a Mark 19 Humvee from the 1486. A guy named Lehman was gunning on that one. The 915 moved closer to the wall.
You could see a lot of guys bobbing and going down, coming back up and engaging in a lot of different directions, and there's multiple personnel out there.
I set us up in fire teams. We started doing volley fire.
I got up on the hood and engaged actually one person from Al-Sadr's militia.
The crews off of the Zebra and off of Lehman's Humvee broke it down into even numbers.
And he was close enough I could actually see the rounds coming out of the AK-47 when he was engaging me.
4 or 5 guys would go up, they'd empty their magazine, covering for the gunner.
I changed my sector of fire, I engaged him, and by all rights, he had me. I mean, the only reason why I came out of that on top was because I was a better shot than he was.
As they're coming back, we've already reloaded and we've got to go up.
The LT took charge of everything in that area. He was telling us right where the RPG fire was coming from, where the mortar fire was coming from, directing the elevation of the Mark 19.
There was people trying to get over the south wall of BIAP as well. And from what I've been told after the fact was that a lieutenant colonel went to the other chow hall that was adjacent to the one we were in and said, hey, we have got a firefight out here, get out here. And Captain Glass and his men went outside, mounted up on their tanks. Captain Glass distributed his arms to protect the perimeter the best he could. He gave us 2 tanks down to our position with the two Humvees were up on the mounds. We pulled those off the mounds and put 2 Abrams tanks up on top of it, and one fired 2 shells.
Whatever fight was left in the enemy was definitely zapped at that point, and it turned into a rout.
A lot of amazing teamwork on the wall that day. I have nothing but great things to say. And anybody that's ever been in combat, you create a bond with the men that you're in situations like that with, and I have no doubt that we'll be friends for the rest of our lives.
The individual acts of heroism by these soldiers is just, I mean, just being there. Crossing that line was an act of heroism.
It was what I was trained to do. There was no other option to me.
We're all soldiers. We're warriors. We embrace this warrior ethos.
That creed that's between soldiers in combat. You know, I got your back, you've got mine. And if you believe in that and you have faith in your buddies, then it's not hard.